A deliberate CBR incident will be a combination of a terrorist incident, hazardous materials incident, and multi-casualty incident. There may be prior warning, but in any case, early recognition by the communications centres and first responders is vital to ensure the incident is managed effectively and responding emergency services personnel do not become casualties. Before carrying out an attack, a terrorist might consider several factors, including target, location, potential for global media coverage, mass casualties, and perhaps ease of escape. Recognition can be separated into three components. They are target signatures, incident signatures, and an incident that does not seem right, or the sixth sense. Target signatures are those features associated with the target and include timing, such as an event with historical significance like Anzac Day, or a certain time or day of the year like rush hour or Christmas Day, for example. Political, social, or cultural context, such as abortion issues or religious affiliation. Demographic or ethnic context like tribal disputes. The second type of target signature is associated with the event, for example, high-profile events like the Olympics, events with a high media profile, such as a politically significant event like the APEC meeting. Remember, these components can often all be present in a single event. The third type of target signature is one with symbolic significance, such as churches, large stadiums, a government or public building, for example Parliament House, educational establishments like universities, assembly areas, both public and private, such as large nightclubs, public transport, such as busy inner-city train stations, infrastructure, such as public transport routes, police buildings or telephone exchanges, high-profile or controversial businesses. Incident signatures are also an important aspect of the recognition process and can be separated into fire and explosion observations, visual observations, and medical observations. Let's consider fire-related or explosion incident signatures. An explosion may not be as large as expected and cause very little damage. There may be little smoke or fire, or maybe the appearance of any fire and smoke is unusual. A vapour cloud, plume or aerosol mist might be associated with the fire, and the size or type of fire may not match the number of casualties or the medical symptoms they have. If there is no obvious cause, then any visual observations about the incident are useful and might include large numbers of casualties where there is no obvious cause, vapour clouds, mists, aerosols or plumes emanating from rubbish bins, dumpsters, vehicles or air conditioning systems, the presence of oily droplets or films on surfaces such as the walls or floor, strange smells that do not match the location, abandoned laboratory equipment or dispersal devices left in unusual places, unexplained items at a hazmat incident, such as a smoking briefcase or flask, environmental damage, such as scorched grass or fauna, dead insects, birds or other animals at the site that are not consistent with a hazmat incident, or alternatively, complete absence of wildlife in the area. Perhaps the most obvious and useful incident signature is the presence of casualties and their associated medical symptoms. These signatures may include expectation of a single victim, but instead multiple victims are present and their medical condition is deteriorating. Unexplained medical symptoms, particularly skin, eye, and respiratory irritation. Unexplained mass trauma with no obvious causes, such as a fire or explosion, or no obvious physical injuries. Medical condition of casualties seems to rapidly change for no apparent reason. Some die while others appear to improve and then suddenly worsen. Patterns of illness within a specific location or the same type of illness at many different locations. Very specific patterns of medical symptoms associated with particular chemical or biological agents. The rule of thumb is use your experience. If something does not seem right, it is probably not, and therefore cautions should be exercised. Certain factors in isolation may not mean much, but together can alert you to the fact something is seriously wrong and the utmost caution is required. These factors could include the location and occupancy of a building, any unusual fire or explosion that does not match the other aspects of the incident, any items that are out of context for the incident, unexplained mists, aerosols, plumes, vapours or odours, unexplained medical symptoms, mass casualties with no obvious cause such as explosion or no other types of injuries, mass casualties with similar medical symptoms, multiple calls to different incidents with similar medical symptoms.
Now that we've recognised a CBR incident, how should you protect yourself? What steps should you take to ensure your safety while still protecting the community? These self-protection steps are not any different to those you take at a motor vehicle accident or an explosion. Remember, the most effective entry route for all these agents is our respiratory system. Given this, all the steps we will demonstrate follow the principle of isolating the hazard from ourselves so that it cannot harm us. Let's think about the first step in protecting yourself. This should be approach and positioning. You should always approach and position yourself upwind and uphill of the incident. The second step is to apply the basic safety philosophy of time, distance, and shielding. You've probably heard of these terms applied to safety at a radiation incident. However, these fundamental actions should be applied at every incident. Let's consider distance. Keep as much distance between you and the area where the agent or other hazards are located as possible. The Initial Emergency Response Guidebook can assist you with selecting appropriate distances. If you are not near the hazard, you cannot breathe it in or become contaminated. Let's consider time. Minimise the time spent near the agents and other hazards. The ideal time is 0 so that you receive no dose. However, if you find yourself near the release, then move upwind and away from it as quickly as possible. This action is always undertaken in conjunction with the distance action. Let's finally consider shielding. Use materials such as buildings to be between you and the agent and other hazards. In the case of radiation, these materials will help absorb the radiation, thus reducing the possible dose. If it is inside, then stay outside and upwind. Together, these actions are essential to assure your safety. You do not require any specific equipment or have to remember anything special to implement them. They would be similar to your actions at a motor vehicle accident, such as the way you position your vehicle or where you stand at the incident. If you do become contaminated and you are not wearing any specific personal protective equipment, you may need to implement emergency self-decontamination. If you are not familiar with the common types of personal protective equipment or the terms contamination or decontamination, then review the sections on personal protective equipment and decontamination respectively. Emergency self-decontamination is undertaken for your life safety and to remove any contamination from yourself. There are many different methods, but the basic steps are follow the rules: upwind, uphill, and the time, distance, and shielding. You can either flush, strip, and flush. That is, wet yourself, remove your clothes, and then wash yourself again. Alternatively, you may strip and then flush. That is, strip your clothes and then wash yourself. You will need to inform other emergency responders about the situation and your personal situation so they can assist you.